time you.
So welcome to another episode of Sensible Secondhand Reviews, the series where we look at practical, sensible cars that you can buy for between £1,000 and £5,000. In fact, we're so sensible today I'm wearing my sensible corduroy jacket. This is a 2012 Kia Cee'd, or rather a Pro Cee'd. I can't be bothered to spell out Pro Cee'd every single time, but fortunately we're talking today rather than spelling, so that's better. It's the Pro Cee'd 1.62. Yes, a complicated name, but a very simple trim level. This has been very kindly lent to the channel by Gary, who's 406 you would have seen on No Budget Reviews with the V6 engine. And I'm going to get to grips with just how this car performs. So the Pro Cee'd was launched back in 2008, and it really is very similar just to the normal Cee'd, which is why I got confused. It's a three-door version of that car. There aren't so many engines and options and things. There's 1.4 engine with either 89 or 104 brake horsepower, depending on year. There's this 1.6 petrol engine with 124 brake horsepower. Later versions of this engine got this lovely 6-speed gearbox. And then there are some diesels, but as you know, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So taking this lovely car onto a dual carriageway, we're just doing about 60 at the moment in 6th gear. It feels very good. I've got cruise control in this 2 model. Engine's a little bit on the noisy side. It's not too bad. We'll settle down. There we are. The ride is quite firm. I think this is a little bit firmer than, say, the Hyundai i30, upon which this is very heavily based. Actually, I will set the cruise control. There we go. There we are. Feels nice and well planted. The only thing I'm noticing straight away is the rear visibility in this car, and it's not brilliant. It really isn't. And in this particular trim, we don't have any parking sensors, so when we park up in a little while, it's going to be interesting to see out the back. However, it's quite comfortable. Driving position in this car is good. Trim levels available in one of these were 1, 2 Ecodynamics, 3 Sport, and 4. Quite logic there, really. You'd expect a little bit more than that. There are also some special editions, such as the ZR7, the SR7, and a couple of others. Very, very pleased just how nice this car actually feels at these sort of speeds. I'm pleased that the surface is relatively good. The camera might shake around a little bit, but not too much. But anyway, let's go and find somewhere to park up and look at this car in more detail. Well, viewers, here we are. Lovely Pro Cee'd. Love a look at how they spell it on the back a little bit later. This is the 2 model. It's quite a late one. It's early 2012 on a 61 plate, and it's very immaculate. It's done, I think, around 50,000 miles actually. So it's not really in any way marked or scuffed or anything. Gary keeps it in excellent condition. I do apologise for all the background noise. It's the only place I can find a film around here. It's the Easter holidays after all. So they don't actually put the word Pro on the back of the car, they just call it a Cee'd. That's why we all get a bit confused. No parking sensors on this car, and I'm glad I was careful when I was reversing, because look, there's this massive rock behind me, and I wouldn't have seen that because you can't see anything out the back window really at all, which is a bit of a shame. So open up the boot. It's actually a very big boot for this type of car, 340 litres. Plenty of space in here. Let's see if we actually do get a space saver spare wheel. Oh, we've got to look maybe even further down. Maybe we don't get one at all, which is a plastic thing. There we go. But there it is, yes. Excellent, viewers. I do like having a proper spare wheel in a car, as I'm sure many of you do as well. That back, there we go. It's easy enough to fold the rear seats as well. Boot's actually a similar size to the normal Cee'd, and of course the SW if you want even more space. Handles actually either side to close it, although I'm of a height where I don't really need them at the moment. It does look very nice in white actually, and some cars don't, but this one seems to. The facelifted design also looks a little bit better. Got a big sort of exhaust tip, although there's not an awful lot of power from the 1.6 engine, which was the top petrol. Although there was a 2 litre in other countries, we didn't get that. If we open up the door, be very careful when I clamber in, don't get tangled up in the microphone wire. I am wearing my microphone today, and I've even got my little dead cat windsock on as well. Very, very kind of simple interior. There's really not an awful lot to it. Everything's quite easily laid out. Nothing is difficult to find really. 2 12-volt sockets down there, and an aux and USB. Shut the door so we get a bit less noise. Put the key in now so I don't fumble around with that later like I always do. Got a compartment here. Another one there. That maybe in the old days would have been an ashtray, but it's not now. 6-speed gearbox in this later 1.6. A lot of the earlier 1.6s had a 5-speed gearbox. No automatic lights or wipers in this one. It's only a 2 trim. Those came higher up the range. Dials in this car are not blue backlit. They're actually sort of red backlit, a bit like an Audi. I wonder why. It's always interesting to see kind of these characteristics. The interior of a first generation Cee'd, which this is, there you go, 54,000 miles. I was almost right. It's very similar to what would happen if you were to say to someone, take a Volkswagen Golf apart and then put it back together, but only using bits that are not copyright infringing. So everything just has this sort of well made and quite nice quality. This is a soft touch material on top of here. Higher up models, I think you've got a chrome door pull in here. But just very, very, very easy to use. The glove box is plenty big enough for the secret mission documents, I think. Yes, there we go. Fabulous. It does feel quite low down, but that's just because it is really. And apparently Gary says we get 44 miles per gallon, which for 1.6 petrol, 125 horsepower and no turbo is actually pretty good. Only 2 electric windows, of course, both automatic up and down. Electric mirrors and traction control off and things like that. You also do get variable instrument lighting, which is good. There's the controls for the cruise control and also for the stereo. Other than that, there's not a huge amount to really say. It probably would be a little bit nicer if you went up to sort of a trim or 2. My preference would be sort of like a 3. The 4 was only available with a forbidden fuel engine, so we won't be talking about that. Or perhaps, I don't know, the Sport. I don't know if the Sport had really big alloy wheels on it, because I don't like massive alloy wheels that ruin the ride, and the ride in this car isn't bad. Right, I think it's time for me to try to get in the back. Okay, viewers, here we go. try from this side. That was quite easy. Compared with a lot of cars that I've driven, it's not that bad to get into the back of this 3-door Pro Cee'd. I've also worked out that there's a lumbar support adjustment too. So if we just put this seat back, the place where it was, actually there doesn't have any memory in it, which is a bit of a problem, but look, wow, actually got some knee room. Headroom's all right as well. And even rear seat passengers get a little place to put stuff on, actual cup holders. Fantastic. Although they're not really of the sort of most interesting kind of design. They feel pretty solid though. No rear armrest, that's no real surprise. Oh, we've got a little friend who is in the rear door pocket showing us how big those are. That's quite handy. Yeah, it's not too bad. There's actually a third seat belt in the middle as well. It's actually pretty comfortable. My head is sort of brushing the ceiling, but I don't think that's really a surprise. For a car like this, it's actually pretty spacious in the back, and it's not that difficult to get in and out. Brilliant. Here is the 1.6 litre Gamma engine, again shared between Kia and Hyundai. This case developing 124 horsepower. These are chain cam units. They're actually extremely reliable engines. There's really not much to say or worry about, but also quite a lot of space in here really. In some markets the Cee'd or Pro Cee'd was available with a 2 litre engine as well for petrol, so there's plenty of room for that to go in here. And the only thing that Gary says he's done is put some brakes and tyres on it and has put a new battery in it, and that's it. He's had it 4 years, so yeah, it's just a decent car. I've sourced 3 first generation Cee'ds and Pro Cee'ds for clients over the last 3 years, and they've all been ecstatically happy with them. The only thing I really would like is an under bonnet mat. That looks a little bit cheap to not put one in. Sure, maybe you could buy one and put it in. I also like the Tiger Nose grille, which the facelifted first generation Cee'ds and Pro Cee'ds had, which is what this one is. Overall, yes, it's quite impressive really. Right, now we're back on the move, and just sort of accelerating through the gears back on the dual carriageway. Acceleration actually feels quite strong. It's stronger than I give it credit for, really. Steering is electrically assisted, so possibly not the same level of feel as some other cars, but it does feel pretty good. Rivals of this with things like the Vauxhall Astra H Sport Hatch, the Renault Megane Coupe, and 3-door versions of the Ford Focus, which is a car that we've had very recently on No Budget Reviews. Prices of these are actually quite low, really. I mean, I think the sort of top prices are maybe about £3,500 for a nice late one like this. This feels really good. I always get really impressed with these cars whenever I drive one, and it's no exception today. Possibly I'd like a little bit more equipment. I'd like a higher spec one than this, but it's really most of the car that you need. If you need more practicality, you can just go for the Cee'd SW or the standard Cee'd. But with this slight decrease in ride height and the styling of the car, it feels really good. It just feels really solid and well made. And I think really for a lot of people this is all that they're going to need. Let's conclude our look at the first generation Kia Pro Cee'd by looking at some of the other cars that were related to it. Of course, the normal Cee'd, the Hyundai i30, first generation of that, very similar car. I've sourced one of those reclined as well. The Hyundai Elantra, that was you know, a car that was made for other markets. The i30 and the Cee'd were really exclusively for the European market. And then the Forte and Cerato, also Kias. Those are more for sort of the American market and you know, other world markets. The Pro Cee'd also had a trim level called Stripe, which I forgot to mention earlier on. Well, I did get all of them actually in whilst I was driving, which is always impressive. The Pro Cee'd's actually 5 centimetres longer and about 5 centimetres lower in the roofline than a normal Cee'd, and you know, you can tell that by the styling. I think this is a good looking car. I think the acceleration of this car is quite strong, if not outstanding. And I think the quality of this is quite good. It's a bit austere in here because this is just a mid-range 2 car. But I think I'd rather have one of these than a contemporary Volkswagen Golf, really. Anyway, thank you for watching this episode of Sensible Secondhand Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and to click the notification bell to be informed of new episodes of this and other videos. My social media links are down below, and if you could like this video and leave a comment on it, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching.